Okay, so thank you, Ms. Ani, for allowing me to come in and observe your class.
Absolutely.
So before I get started, I just wanted to allow you some minutes to reflect on what you were doing and anything that you thought from the little feedback that I had given you before.
You came in and observed our centers rotation, and mainly we do centers so I can meet with my individual reading groups, improve on their strengths and address any weaknesses that they may have, any struggles that they may have. What I do is usually on Fridays, I do a running record for as many students as I can. Okay. And then on Mondays and sometimes Tuesdays, I end up scooping up the rest of them. So we've had at least a whole week to practice, review, and then we do a running record. My minimum for the school district is a running record a month. I try to do 2 because we all need second chances and we all have bad days, and we just need, grace is big in my classroom. So I try to give them at least 2 chances because we always want to grow and we always want to reflect back on what we're doing, which is what we're doing right now. So
absolutely.
We also need to extend that grace to our students.
Very good. Now, I want to just share with you a little bit of what I observed. So I was able to see 2 different center rotations, which was great. I saw the students on task engaging in what you had previously discussed with them, and so they knew exactly what it was that they were doing. I really liked the fact that they were on task and they were responsible for their learning at that moment. All of the students were very focused. I didn't see anyone that was off task, so kudos. I really enjoyed that.
Took a lot of practice.
So I can see how the micro credentials really helped in that sense,
very much.
And it was good because the culture of your class was, this is my expectation. Everyone understands what the expectation is, and no one came to disturb you, which was very good. And even the students that were here were quietly listening as one of the other students were sharing their responses. One of the other things that I also observed was your questioning. So some of the questions that you asked one of our friends when I first came in were basically checking for understanding. The other students, although they were engaged, I wasn't sure about what the expectations for them were, separate of that they had to wait their turn. Yes. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a second. I saw that the questions really led to retelling, summarizing, and doing some detail responses. The story rabbit and the talking squash was what the first group did, and so the second one did a different one, which is one is nonfiction, the other one was fiction. Right. But it didn't look like that, so I was like, okay, the kind of text that it was. But basically, the information that they were sharing was pretty clear. Now, I listened to some of the students read, and so I can tell that they were practicing some fluency as well as what that running record really does. And the only other thing that I didn't include, but I wanted to address now, was help with students that were independent. Okay, so what do you provide support in for the students that are working independently? Do they always work independently? Do they get an opportunity to check with another student if their answers were right or not? Or what process do you have for that?
It's mostly independent work. They turn it all in and I check it and then I return it back to them. If it is a large group miscommunication or misunderstanding, I do use my ladybug, the little puts their work up on the smartboard. Okay. And so the entire class can see one student's work. I always cover up the name so nobody gets embarrassed or offended or even bragging rights. And that way we can review it with their work in front of them. Okay. So they can see it. Okay. And I may do 2 or 3 different students just so they can see the variety of responses.
Okay, so then another question that I had from just my wonderings down here, where I know that you were doing the running record, the questions were particularly from the sheet from the running records, or were they questions that you had already sort of thought that they needed to continue to guide them?
Sometimes I use the Jan Richardson assessment, and those have pre-made questions already made up for us. Okay. The HMH ones do not have questions made up for us, so I usually do it based on the content that we're learning that week.
Okay. So you have to plan those questions ahead of time.
Yes, always write them down.
Okay. Do you use a variety of different questions for the students based on their personal needs, or are you just focusing on the students at that particular level?
It's scaffolded, so I may create a sentence starter for them, or a lot of it is based on what they need based on past assessments. Okay. So that it may not be focused on a past need, because we've started to move on to the next content area, but I'm always reaching back and trying to bring in something that they may not have 100%.
Okay. One other thing that I noticed, you chose this book. I saw that you were looking through it. Do you already have the books that they need ahead of time, and they have an opportunity to read it before you do that running record, or was that running record that I saw a cold read?
Running records are always a cold read.
Okay.
We've practiced the same level all week, and we make sure to get a brand new book for a running record, so it is truly a cold read.
Okay. Now, the other question I had, do you have time to have conversations with the students about their score or their next step or anything like that to sort of continue pushing them on?
My kids are at an average a year behind in reading levels. Okay. And they're very motivated to get on grade level.
Oh, that's great.
Very motivated. And we've just